It happened so fast, and yet in that moment, time didn't just slow down. It cracked open. I wasn't just seeing my life flash before me. It was as if every moment I'd ever lived was lined up like a film reel, playing all at once, then dissolving into silence. And there I was, facing myself. Not the version of me I showed the world, but the raw, unfiltered truth. I stood at the edge of something bigger than fear, bigger than pain. And for the first time, I saw what love really is. Not the version I was taught, not the packaged idea we grow up chasing. Real love, the kind that doesn't judge, doesn't compare, doesn't put one life above another. I saw life itself, not just in people, but in plants, in animals, in everything, and it was the same. No difference, not in essence, just life, pulsing, constant, sacred. I realized then, love is life. And life, in its purest form, knows no hierarchy. It wasn't a dream, it wasn't abstract, it was a knowing. But let me take you back to how it started. January 15th, 2024, I was pregnant. Then the cramps began, then spotting. My husband rushed me to emergency. We waited for hours, 3.5 to be exact. By the time they saw me, it was already too late. I miscarried. And then came the hemorrhaging. The hospital discharged me. I thought I was okay, until I wasn't. I went to the washroom just before leaving, and something changed. My hands, my feet, numb, cold, gone. I couldn't feel the floor. I stumbled out. My husband caught me as I collapsed. He sat me down, called for help, but I was already somewhere else. It felt like I was deep underwater, at the bottom of an ocean. Nothing around me, just darkness. But above me, light, like moonlight through water, soft, calling, alive. I moved toward it, through what felt like waves, even though I couldn't feel water. And just beyond those waves, I saw him, my husband, on the other side. And I knew then I had a choice. I could sense it. The world I had left behind was just beyond a thin, invisible veil. On the other side was my husband, the hospital, the nurses, life as I knew it. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't cross that barrier. It was like trying to walk through wind that had weight. Each attempt drained something deep from me. I didn't see the hospital hallway, but somehow I knew exactly what was happening there. A male nurse walking briskly, 2 women responding to him. I couldn't see them, but I felt them, their urgency, their voices. I kept trying to push through, again and again, but it was like the more I fought, the more exhausted I became, until finally, I had nothing left. I let go. I sank. And in that surrender, something shifted. I don't remember the darkness this time. Only a voice cutting through the quiet. "Are you back with us?" A whisper at first, then firmer. My eyelids fluttered like morning light trying to break through. And then, I was back, fully aware, alive, and being lifted onto a stretcher. That moment changed everything, because coming back meant choosing life. After they stabilized me, they moved me into another room, checked my blood pressure, and that was it. No real follow-up, no further monitoring, just a few casual instructions. If anything happens again, keep her feet elevated. Then they sent me home. That was the full extent of care. It was after midnight by the time we got back, so technically it was already the 16th. I lay on the couch, trying to rest. My husband was in the kitchen making something warm for me. But then, I felt it. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. I was losing too much blood, fast. I won't go into the details, but any woman would know. This wasn't normal. This wasn't recovery. It was something else. My husband suggested moving to the bedroom, thinking I'd be more comfortable, but I could barely lift myself. The moment I tried, it hit me. The same darkness from before. I clutched the couch with everything I had, holding onto it like it was the only thing anchoring me to this world. I looked at him and whispered, "It's happening again." And then I let go. I crossed over again, back into that other place. I don't know what to call it. The spirit realm, the in-between, the beyond. But I was there. And once again, I was drifting between two worlds. But this time, something different happened. I was shown my life, not as a memory, not like a story being told. It was as if my life was made of light. Each moment appeared like a glowing frame, one after the next, stretching from my very first breath to the moment I had just left. There was no fear, no pain, just presence, just clarity. I felt a sense of peace and pride, not ego, but a quiet knowing. I had lived with love. I had tried my best. And somehow that counted for something. People think darkness is scary, but it's not. Not when you realize that we are the light. We carry it with us, into this world and out of it. And in that space between life and death, I understood something simple, but life-changing. Every moment matters. What happened next is something I've spent a whole year trying to put into words. And even now, I still feel like I'm grasping for a language that doesn't quite exist here. But I'll try, because this part changed me forever. I knew something was coming. I could feel it. Like everything I'd experienced up to that point, the stillness, the darkness, the light, the life review. It was all building toward a moment, a weighing. Not in a religious sense, not like punishment or reward, but more like truth. I felt like my life was about to be measured, not by anyone else, but by the essence of what it really was. Not what I claimed it was, what it actually was. I expected some grand conclusion, some kind of final tally, but instead, all those glowing frames of my life, the ones I had just seen in my review, suddenly rushed together and vanished. Just like that. Gone. And I remember thinking, that's not what was supposed to happen. I stood there, stunned, trying to make sense of the silence. I thought I had done so many good things. I'd helped people. I'd tried to live with purpose. But then it hit me. So many of those moments, as powerful as they looked, weren't mine alone. They were moments when I was moved by something greater than me, a higher presence working through me. I had simply been the vessel, and in that space, even my proudest actions didn't feel like they belonged to me. Except for one thing. I remembered my choice to be a vegetarian. That felt like mine. That was hard. The temptation, the discipline, the conviction, I had chosen it. I'd wrestled with it, sacrificed for it, and a part of me wanted it to count for something. And the moment I thought that, I heard it, my own consciousness speaking, clear and sharp. That's exactly why it doesn't count. It was a lightning bolt of realization. Because wanting it to count meant I was still attaching value to it, based on ego, on merit, on the idea of being rewarded. And in that instant, I saw something deeply uncomfortable but undeniably true. I had started with love, but somewhere along the way, I lost it. What began as compassion for animals had turned into a kind of identity badge. Years of commitment slowly turned into ritual. And like any ritual done mindlessly, the heart of it faded. I'm not saying this is true for everyone, but it was for me. I became the kind of person who could recite what I didn't eat, what I didn't buy, what I stood against. But I wasn't asking myself anymore why I was doing it. Somewhere, my love got replaced by performance. it became habit, not heart. And then came the clearest vision I've ever had. I saw that love doesn't come with rankings. There's no hierarchy. The same life that pulses through a tree, pulses through a human, pulses through an animal. It's not about levels of consciousness. It's about the life itself. And that life is love. Not a version of love, not a filtered idea. It is love. When I returned to my body, I couldn't see the world the same way anymore. I couldn't say one life mattered more than another. Not because someone told me that, but because I knew it in my bones. I'd seen it. I'd felt it. That night, as I drifted between here and the other side, I got weaker and weaker. My body was shutting down, and I knew it. Every time I came back, it felt harder to stay. I told my husband, "I think this is it." And I meant it. I had no strength left. But there was one thing I had to do before I left. I needed to say goodbye to my children. I have 5. They were all asleep, but I couldn't go without leaving something for them. So my husband grabbed his phone, and I recorded a message for each of them. And then I asked him to pray with me. Not just any prayer, the prayer. I asked him to pray that I'd be sent back, that I'd get another chance. Because by then I remembered. I remembered why I came here in the first place. Not to be successful, not to be seen as good, not to build a life others admired. I came here to love. And I hadn't done it, not fully. I had loved conditionally, selectively. I had loved where it was easy or praised or visible, but not always where it was real. And I remember standing there, in that presence, in front of the Most High, and I was still, waiting. Not begging, just waiting. Because I knew, if I wasn't sent back, it would be because I still wasn't ready to remember. Maybe I'd forget again. Maybe I'd fall back asleep. And I accepted that. But I was sent back. And I know, with everything in me, that it was because the Most High saw in my heart. She's ready now. She remembers. Since then, I've been different. I don't care about titles or credit or being seen as good. I care about loving, for real, in the hard moments, with no spotlight, with no reward. I talk about love now, not because it's a trend, but because I finally understand what it really is. It's not performance. It's not self-righteousness. It's not just kindness to those we like. Love is remembering that every life, plant, animal, human, is animated by the same sacred force. Love is seeing no separation. And love, in the end, is why we're here. That's what I came back to do, and that's what I'll spend the rest of my life doing. When I returned to that space, what some might call the spirit realm, or the other side, I saw something I'll never forget. It was filled with beings, but not in the way we see each other here. There were no bodies, no faces. Everyone was light, pure, luminous light. And yet, I knew who everyone was. Not because of how they looked, but because of how they felt. Each soul had its own energetic signature, a kind of spiritual fingerprint. And even though the forms were similar, their light told me everything. Right in front of me was my husband, and beside him, our 5 children. Their lights were the brightest, glowing like stars at their peak. The further out my gaze went, the dimmer the lights became. Not weaker, not less important, just less connected, less full, like cups that weren't as filled. But the brightness wasn't random. I understood, immediately, intuitively, that the souls shining closest to me weren't just family in the earthly sense. They were the ones I had poured the most love into. They were filled, not because they were more worthy, but because of the love we had built between us. And when I say love, I don't mean the emotion we talk about in passing. I love this song. I love my dog. I love coffee. I mean real love. The kind that moves through action, through presence, through sacrifice and care. The kind that requires something of you, that grows because you give. I stood there, taking it all in, and then something changed. The longer I looked, not with eyes but with awareness, the more I began to see beyond the light. I could see what they were made of, their essence, and that essence was love. That was the revelation. Love isn't just what we feel, it's what we are. Every living thing is made of it. Every soul, every tree, every creature. It's not symbolic, it's literal. Love is the fabric of life itself, not an emotion, not a poetic idea. The source code, the divine thread woven through everything that lives. I realized that even the ones furthest away from me, the dimmer lights, weren't dim because their essence was any less pure. Their light with me was just less developed, because I hadn't spent as much time loving them. I hadn't built that connection. I hadn't made love with them, not in the romantic sense, but in the spiritual one. Love, I saw, is something we can create. It grows between people. It multiplies through intention, through effort, through time. The more we give it, the more it fills. And I knew in that moment that I was meant to go back and make more love. Not just with my family, but with everyone. To fill up the dim spaces, to live in a way where I leave every soul a little brighter. So I asked, how do I do that? How do I make more love? And the answer came instantly, not in words, but in knowing. Be present, be kind, be real, give without keeping score, love without needing anything back. Love, not to be good, but because it's who you are. That's when everything changed. That's when I understood what it truly means to live. Love isn't something we chase. It's something we choose, every single day. There was a moment, while I was on the other side, that hit me harder than anything else, and it had nothing to do with big life events or dramatic turning points. It had to do with presence. I understood something so simple, but so often missed in our everyday lives. Let's say you and I are having a conversation. You're speaking, and I'm listening. But in my mind, I'm already thinking about what I'm going to say next, or how I'll respond. My body is there, but my attention isn't. My spirit isn't. In that other place, I saw the truth of that. I saw how often we leave moments before they even end, how often we touch people's lives, barely. There was one woman I recognized. She was a cashier. I didn't know her name. It was one of those quick exchanges, a greeting, a smile, some small talk. In my earthly mind, she was insignificant, just someone I passed by. But there she was. She was there, in the space with all the others. And I realized every single person I'd ever interacted with was there. Every single one. Not just the ones I loved deeply or spent years with. Not just my family, but strangers, acquaintances, people I passed in the hallway or stood next to in line. Because even the briefest moments leave something behind. And I learned something powerful in that moment. Love isn't about time. It's about presence. It's not about how long you're with someone, but how fully you show up when you are. When I talk about making love, I'm not talking about romance or physical intimacy. I mean the act of giving your essence, of offering your full attention, your full self, looking someone in the eyes and actually seeing them, listening, not just with your ears, but with your heart. That is love. That's how you create more of it. When you give someone your full presence, even for a few seconds, you're giving them something sacred. And they feel it. Their spirit recognizes it, even if their mind doesn't. That moment becomes part of both of you. And as I stood in that realm, I felt this deep pull, like I was being drawn away from my family, from the light. I didn't know where I was going, but it felt like time was taking me, like I was being pulled into the future, maybe 8 years, maybe more. I didn't know exactly. All I knew was I wasn't done. I wanted to come back, to love deeper, to be present more fully, with everyone, always. There was a point during my near-death experience when I felt myself being pulled into the future, not in a metaphorical way, but in a deep, spiritual sense. I didn't see a clock or a calendar, but I felt it, 8 years ahead. And what I was being shown wasn't a vision of events or milestones. It was something far more personal. I was being shown what remained of me in the hearts of my loved ones, my husband, my children. And at first, they could still feel me. I was present with them, even though I wasn't in a physical form. They could sense me, my essence, my love. But then, that feeling began to fade. By what felt like the 8th year, I had become only a memory, a story, a photo. They still remembered me, but they no longer felt me. And that realization broke me. I remember pleading, "No, that's too soon. That's not enough." I didn't want to be just a memory. I wanted to remain through love. And that's when I understood something so powerful. The only way for my presence to truly remain with them was to create more love with them while I was here. Not the kind of love that just says "I love you" at bedtime, but the kind that's lived. Deep, intentional, soul-filling love. The kind that leaves a spiritual imprint so strong, it can still be felt long after the body is gone. I begged to be sent back, not to finish a project, not to chase success, not even to extend my life. I wanted to return so I could love them better, so I could love more fully. I wanted to teach them what love really is. I wanted to help others remember why we're here, because that's what I had forgotten. I came to this earth to love, and in the rush of life, in all my roles and responsibilities, I had missed that truth. And yet, even before this experience, I had felt glimpses of that divine love, especially in my healing work. I would be with clients, just helping them through something simple, and suddenly I'd feel this overwhelming wave of love rush over me. It always began with love. That was the frequency I tapped into. I didn't call it that at the time. I just knew something powerful was flowing through. Now I understand. That was love. That was spirit. That was life. On the other side, I recognized it instantly. It was the same current I had touched during those healing sessions. I'd been channeling it for years without realizing what it truly was. And that knowing shifted everything for me. I came back understanding I needed to be fully present with my family, with strangers, with everyone. Because love is created in presence. I remember being in that realm, watching my loved ones as I was slowly pulled further and further away. Not physically, but energetically. My connection to them was being stretched, and I could feel time expanding between us. And as I was pulled back, I had another realization. People always say, "I'm a loving person." I hear it all the time. "You're so loving, so warm." And yes, I've tried to be that. But in that place, I saw clearly that I hadn't truly lived it to its fullest. I hadn't taught real love. I hadn't modeled it the way I was meant to. And that's why I asked to return. Because I knew I still had work to do, not in building a business or checking off achievements, but in building love. The kind of love that stays. Since I've returned, I've had the opportunity to connect with people who've lost loved ones. Sometimes the energy comes through so clearly, like a message waiting to be delivered. One woman came to me not expecting anything spiritual, but suddenly I felt her mother's energy, full of emotion. Her mother shared a message with me, just a simple line. I gave her my name. That's all I had to give. It turned out to be true. Her mother had passed years before after a troubled life, and she had indeed given her daughter nothing but her name. But in that moment, everything changed. Her mother's message brought healing, and after the words were spoken, her mother's presence was gone. She had been waiting all that time, just for someone who could hear her. That's love. It reminded me that love doesn't die. It doesn't expire. On the other side, mental illness doesn't exist. Pain and trauma dissolve, and when that happens, souls are finally able to see clearly what they couldn't see while alive. They feel regret, they feel longing, and sometimes if the love is strong enough, they wait. For years. Just to say, I'm sorry, I love you. Not everyone experiences this the same way. Some people feel their loved ones right after passing. Others feel nothing. Sometimes it's because the soul has moved on. Sometimes it's because there's no one available to receive the message. But when love is real, when it's deep and honest and raw, it transcends everything, even time. What I know for sure is this: I wasn't sent back for any reason other than love. That's the only thing that mattered. It wasn't about fixing my life or achieving more. It was about remembering why I came here to begin with, and helping others remember too. Love is the currency of the divine. It's what we're made of. It's why we're here. And when we leave, it's the only thing that stays. So now, I live with that truth in my heart. Every interaction matters. Every moment is a chance to give love, to be present, to create a connection that might last far beyond this lifetime. And I'll keep choosing love, again and again. Because in the end, that's the only thing that truly lives on. The 2 weeks after my near-death experience were indescribable. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I had too much. Too much to feel, too much to process, too much to figure out how to explain. I was back, but not really. I was here, but not fully present. My body was alive, but my spirit, it was hovering, reluctant. Earth suddenly felt heavy, dense, like I'd landed in a place coated in emotional humidity, like the difference between swimming in crystal clear water and getting dragged through mud. Over there, everything had been light, truth, clean. There was no pretending, no roles, no hidden agendas. You just were, and it was enough. You existed in your essence, and that was seen, known, loved. So to come back here, to a world where people wear masks over masks, where words are twisted and the truth often gets buried under noise, was almost unbearable. I wanted to be with my family, yes. That part never changed. But I didn't want to be in this realm. It took every ounce of willpower just to stay grounded, to keep my spirit from drifting back. For those first couple of weeks, I was mostly quiet. Not silent, but internal. I was trying to translate everything I'd seen and felt into words. Words that could be understood here without being misinterpreted or diluted. But language here isn't built for that kind of truth. Words are loaded with contradiction. We say things like, "That's sick," to mean something's amazing. "Wicked," to mean cool. Love means everything and nothing, depending on who's saying it. How do you talk about divine truth in a language built on filters? Still, I tried, because something inside me knew I had to share. That was part of the reason I was sent back. Not just to live differently, but to speak differently. To try, at least, to help others remember what they already know deep down. People often ask me how I became a healer. It wasn't something I set out to do. It was a calling that grew inside me, passed down like a sacred seed. My grandfather was a healer, his mother too. I was the first granddaughter after a long line of sons, and because of that, I was especially close to him. He took me under his wing, not just as a grandchild, but as a student of the unseen. I lived with him and my grandmother during my earliest years, and in that time, he began to teach me, not through textbooks or ceremonies, but through quiet knowing. When I'd see something strange or feel something others didn't, I'd ask him, and he'd nod like it was the most natural thing in the world. He never made me feel like I was different, just gifted in ways not everyone had access to yet. I didn't realize until much later, when I moved to Canada and started asking other kids on the playground questions like, "Where do you go in your dreams?" that not everyone saw the world the same way I did. Their blank stares said it all. That was the day I learned to keep my questions to myself. My mother later warned me, "Don't talk to people about those things. They won't understand." So I tucked it away. I learned to navigate the physical world while quietly honing my sensitivity to the spiritual one. It was isolating at times, but it was also clarifying. It taught me to trust my intuition more than anything or anyone else. And that trust has never failed me. Every time I've ignored it, I've paid the price. Every time I've listened, I've been guided with precision and peace. Whether you call it intuition, the Holy Spirit, or the higher self, it's the same sacred GPS. And mine has always led me toward love. Love, I've learned, is not a feeling. It's not an action. It's not even just a choice. Love is what we are made of. It is the currency of the divine. It's the energy that weaves everything together. Spirit, matter, memory, future. It's all love. That realization hit me hardest during the moment I was being pulled into what felt like the future, 8 years ahead, after my physical death. I could feel what remained of me in the lives of my children and husband. In the beginning, they still felt me, my essence. But by the time that 8th year arrived, I had become only a memory. The feeling of me was gone, and that broke me. I pleaded to be sent back, not for my own sake, but for theirs. I wanted to create more love with them, to fill their spirits so fully that they could feel me for a lifetime, not just a handful of years. I wanted to teach them what love actually means, because even though many people think of me as a loving person, I saw clearly that I had barely scratched the surface. Love is more than being kind or affectionate. It's presence. It's choosing to be fully in the moment with someone over and over again. And I wanted to come back to live that way, to help others discover it too. Since returning, I've felt even more connected to people, especially those who've lost someone they love. I've had moments during sessions when I suddenly feel an overwhelming wave of love that I know doesn't belong to me. That's how it always starts. A presence shows up, a message follows, and healing begins. One session that stayed with me was with a woman whose relationship with her mother had been deeply painful. Her mother had passed years before, and they hadn't spoken in peace. Suddenly, during our conversation, I felt her mother so strongly. A message came through. I gave her my name. It's all I had. That was true. Her mother had named her after herself, and it had always been a point of silent pain. But now, it was a bridge. Her mother explained what had happened, what she had suffered from, and why she wasn't able to love the way her daughter needed. She said she had waited for someone who could deliver this message. And once her daughter heard it, really heard it, something lifted. Forgiveness, release, love. And then, her mother was gone. That's what love does. It waits. It transcends time, mental illness, even death. Because over there, all the noise is gone. No trauma, no confusion, just clarity and the desire to make things right. That's why I know I wasn't sent back for any reason other than love. It wasn't to build a brand or chase success. It was to embody love, to help others remember, to show, not just tell. And now, as we step into 2025, I feel something shifting again. I call this year the year of magnification. Everything will expand, good or bad, depending on what we're choosing. 2024 was a mirror revealing what we want and what we no longer accept. It showed us what kinds of relationships, careers, environments, and energies we want to keep, and which ones need to go. If something in your life doesn't feel right, and you're still saying yes to it, you're giving it permission to stay and grow. That's what 2025 will do. It will amplify whatever energy you're holding, so choose with intention. Surround yourself with people who reflect your light. Watch content that uplifts you. Speak words that build, not break. Because everything you engage with is either expanding love or blocking it. And at the end of the day, that's really the only thing that matters. Love is the legacy, the only one that lives on. So I'm here now, not just to live, but to love. More honestly, more fully, more freely. And if you're hearing this, maybe it's your reminder to do the same. Before you scroll away, I want you to pause for just one moment. Because if you've made it this far, it's not by accident. I truly believe you were meant to hear this. You were meant to remember who you are, why you're here, and what really matters. This isn't just my story. This is a wake-up call. For you, for your soul, for your purpose. We are not here to chase empty things. We are here to love, to create light in every space we enter. And if this message stirred something in you, if it made you feel seen, or gave you chills, or reminded you of something you had forgotten, don't keep it to yourself. Comment below and tell me what part spoke to you the most. I want to hear your heart. Like this video so more people can find it. Share it with someone you love. Someone who needs to be reminded of the truth. And most importantly, subscribe to this channel. This is more than content. This is a movement, a mission, a space for healing, for divine truth, for transformation. Every week, I'll be sharing more messages, more love, more light that flows straight from spirit. And if you're ready to walk this journey with me, if you're ready to step into your higher self, you're in the right place. May the Most High bless you, guide you, and cover you with peace and purpose. I'm so glad you're here. Let's rise together.